Howdy, my name is Sarah Bowden, and my insect is the deer tick. My partner, Stavante Lewis, has the Lone Star tick. Today, he and I will be debating over if the deer tick or Lone Star tick is more difficult to control. The Ixodes scapularis is a member of the arachnid family. It is a tick found along the east coast of the United States, more specifically in the wooded areas of the Northeast. They range from 3 to 5 millimeters long. However, they can expand to be as big as 10 millimeters long after a blood meal. Although larvae have 6 legs, adults have 8. These ticks have flattened bodies that are dark brown in color that turns a rusted color after feeding. Females, unlike males, have a dark black patch on their upper body. This is known as a dorsal shield or scrotum. The Ixodes scapularis are more commonly known as the deer tick. This is because their primary host of the adults is the white-tailed deer. Larvae, however, typically feed on birds and small rodents. This is because the deer tick is a 3-host tick and feeds on different hosts at different stages of its life. Deer ticks undergo a 3-stage metamorphosis. This is what is called an incomplete metamorphosis. It includes a larvae, nymph, and adult stage. When feeding, females will latch onto a host and suck its blood, which is known as a blood meal. After they have their blood meal and are full, they then detach and overwinter on the forest floor. Deer ticks are extremely hardy and can survive very low temperatures. When they become active again in the spring, the females will then mate and lay up to 3,000 eggs. After the females have laid their eggs, they then die, completing a 2-year life cycle. During their life, deer ticks have a very negative impact on human society. Their biggest impact is as a disease factor. In fact, they are the most frequently reported vector-borne disease in the United States. They are the main vector for Lyme disease in North America, but also is a vector for anaplasmosis, Powassan virus disease, babesiosis, and ankylosis. Deer ticks also transmit Borrelia, which is a genus of bacteria. More specifically, 90% of the black-legged ticks have been infected with B. burgdorferi, a unique characteristic of the deer tick is an anal opening on the lower edge of the abdomen on the ventral side. They also have no festoons, which are ridges on the edge of the lower abdomen. This is unlike other deer ticks and allows people to identify and differentiate them from other species.
The Amblyomma Americanum, or better known as the Lone Star tick, belongs to the Ixodes family. It is found in the eastern, southeastern, and midwestern of the United States. They like to hide out in dense vegetation areas or wooded areas. The tick ranges from 3 to 4 millimeters long. However, they can expand to 8 to 10 millimeters long after a blood-sucking meal. The larvae has 6 eggs, but when they reach the adult stage, they gain 2, so that will be a total of 8. The Lone Star tick are round in shape, and the females have a very distinctive white spot in the middle of their back. The males have white streaks along the sides and on the back. The Lone Star tick feeds on different hosts during the 3 stages of metamorphosis called incomplete metamorphosis. The larvae primarily feed on birds, mammals, while nymphs feed on birds, mammals, and small rodents. Adults typically feed on large or medium-sized mammals, but can be found on small rodents or wild turkeys. Female ticks die after they give birth to the offspring. As far as the males, they can eat a good meal before winter and hibernate until the next season to become active again. The Lone Star tick has a typically lifespan of 8 months to 2 years. The Lone Star ticks are bad for humans because they carry disease from host to host. When bitten by a Lone Star tick, you don't notice it, and it can cause many illnesses and sometimes death. The Lone Star tick is very known for having the disease called SARI, Southern Tick Association Rash Illness, or known as the Master's Disease.
The biggest reason why the deer tick would be more difficult to control and mitigate than the Lone Star tick is because you must treat the deer population in order to control them. The white-tailed deer is the primary host of the deer tick. A great way to eliminate any pests is to eliminate or at least lower their food source. The white-tailed deer has an extremely large population, which is very difficult to diminish or even contain. There are 4 main reasons for this, which are that it is difficult to control it safely in the more urban areas, diminishing them is a very controversial subject in human society. The programs used in order to control the population are not long-term, and it is extremely costly. This is very prominent in the northeastern area where there is a dense distribution of white-tailed deer, specifically in Maine and Illinois. A great example of the effect of the deer population on the deer ticks is that in Monhegan, Maine, the town voted in the late 1990s to remove every single deer on the entire island in an effort to control the disease. This caused a huge reduction in population of the deer tick. However, in Freehold, New Jersey between 2002 and 2005, the town removed only half of its deer herd, which had no effect at all on the number of ticks. This is proof that controlling the deer population is a huge factor in controlling the deer tick population. However, it is difficult and mostly inaccessible in accomplishing.
Sarah stated great evidence about how the deer tick is hard to control because of the deers in many populations and places. But however, on the other hand, the Lone Star tick would be more difficult to control and mitigate is because you must treat all the small mammals, especially the small dogs. Dogs are a primary host of the Lone Star tick. In order to control or dismantle the Lone Star tick existence is to take away the host that it needs to survive. Dogs are located everywhere, and the population of the stray dogs are steadily increasing. Dogs hurt the containment of the pest because dogs like to wander. In the north, there are a lot of wooded areas, and dogs wander around a lot of wood to be curious. As in the southeast and Midwest, dogs like to wander around the moist, dense vegetation areas. The ticks like to attack on the dogs. By the dogs not knowing that they are being fed on, neither does the owner of the dog. By letting the dog back in the house is just putting their self at risk dramatically of the tick being passed to them. Containing all the dogs from ticks is a more difficult task as you don't know which dogs are stray and which dogs are not. You can't just go picking up stray dogs because some of the dogs belong to owners. Also, they would have to collect the dogs and then thoroughly inspect them to make sure they don't have the Lone Star tick. In addition, ticks are hard to stop, so when they attach onto the dog and then get in the house, you wouldn't know that they would reproduce very fast and at a huge rate. The tick problem would just get worse, and on top of that, harm the human race tremendously.
Although Stavante shows good evidence that the Lone Star tick is hard to control through their food source, there is another way that the deer tick provides to be more challenging. This is that the deer ticks are extremely hardy against the cold. All ticks overwinter during the cold months after they have their blood meals. During this, a great percentage die from the inability to withstand cold temperatures. This is a natural and effective way in containing ticks. In fact, this is one of the biggest ways that the tick population as a whole is controlled. Deer ticks, however, prove to be able to overcome this obstacle. This is because they have adapted to these environmental constraints and can withstand the cold more than other ticks. In fact, they are even one of the first active invertebrates in the spring. In a study conducted, deer ticks were shown to be active for many days during January and February, which are the coldest months of the year. Some captures were even made when there was 70% snow coverage and temperatures as low as -2 degrees Celsius. It is also important to note that because of this, if it is a colder spring than usual, they will not die off or be as affected as a Lone Star tick. Overall, the deer ticks typically do not die off during the cold months, and therefore they take away a potential way to control their population that the Lone Star tick does not have.
The habitat is also a significant problem with controlling the Lone Star tick. The Lone Star tick, like in the wooded areas and dense vegetations, consider those habitats are everywhere along the East Coast and in the Midwest. You just can't getting rid of them. The only thing that you can do is improve the land by cleaning up and mowing the land that needs it. When cleaning up the land, you can only do so much, as you would have wood and other things that help the ticks survive still in the way. Also, when mowing the land, you just can't take away the ticks, as some will blow and just spread while others stay in the same place. Until a productive plan to get rid of the ticks is made, they will stay a threat to animals and humans by feeding on us and using the land we use to their advantage. The best time to do this cleaning would be in the winter when the ticks are less active.
In conclusion, the deer tick has an extremely large population which has the most dense distribution in eastern North America. There are a huge major disease vector and are known to spread anaplasmosis, Powassan virus disease, babesiosis, and ankyliosis. The main issue they cause, however, is with Lyme disease. This is why it is very important to study the deer tick. They are the #1 vector for Lyme disease in North America and are therefore used in Lyme disease prevention research. These research studies look into how they contract and transmit the disease and also how we must control the vector in order to control the disease. The deer tick is extremely difficult to control, and there are 2 main reasons for this. The first is that their primary host is the white-tailed deer. This deer population is not only extremely high, but also very hard to control. There have been multiple unsuccessful attempts at controlling their population, which has proven to affect the deer tick population as well. By not being able to control the food source or of the host, it is very challenging to control the parasite itself. The deer tick is also one of the hardiest ticks against the cold. In fact, they are one of the first inactive invertebrates during the spring. There have also been studies that have shown deer ticks feeding during the coldest months of the year. This takes away a huge controlling factor when trying to mitigate the deer tick. Overall, because of these 2 major factors, the deer tick is much more difficult to control than the Lone Star tick.
The Lone Star tick population is very large and spread out throughout the east, southeast, and midwest of the United States. They are the main cause of STARI, Southern Tick Association Rats illness, or known as the Master's disease. They also pass along many other deadly diseases. The small animals and dogs are their main host and hurts the human society. The habitat which the Lone Star ticks live makes it even more of a challenge and difficult task to control and mitigate. Even as some places started cleaning up and it's still not helping eliminate the ticks, the dogs are hard to contain with the ticks as it goes, unnoticed that they have them. When they get into the home of the Lone Star tick, the Lone Star tick creates a bigger problem than they created at first. Even though they are having things being used to treat the grass and the dogs, they're not working as the ticks are evolving and still finding ways to fight off the repellent and survive. By dogs not being able to be contained and the habitat serving to their advantage, the Lone Star tick is harder to control than a deer tick.